Good morning, folks, and welcome to Money Truth Moments with our very own money expert, our very own money whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How are you?
I'm fine. The money whisperer. I love it. I love it. I'm doing great. And I am coming into you with not so great lighting. So you might notice if you've been watching, it's a little different today. My background's a little different.
Yeah,
I
I was going to
am,
say, where are you?
well, I'm at an undisclosed remote location somewhere
All
in
right.
southern Florida.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So
I appreciate you joining us while you're in your undisclosed location traveling. So
I am
thank
on
you.
business. So it's all legit. Yeah. It's good to see you, Carlos.
Uh,
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been looking forward to today's topic because we're going to get back to. We've been talking a lot about, the beginning of the year. We talked about getting started, getting your finances in order, getting your house in order, and then you've answered a lot of great questions. And someone also asked about, okay, so let's talk budgeting basics, right? And one of the first things that I want to ask you, just for folks that are just tuning in, and by the way, folks, welcome to the show. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.today. You can follow her social media as there as well. So make sure you connect, leave a message, or leave us a topic that you want Judy to discuss and share on the show as well too. But today, I'm going to ask you about what are the first steps someone should take when creating that B word, that budget.
Yeah. It is the B word. It's like the D word, diet. It's what you can't
Mhm.
have. I don't like that word. But budget is the same for some people. It's the B word because it's like what you can't spend, what you can't do, what you can't, do to enjoy your life. So we call it a spending plan. So you can just interchange those spending plan with budget. Spending plan sounds like what I get to do, how I get to
Right.
allocate my cash, right? Isn't that just a whole lot more fun to think about?
I like it a lot better. I'm going to start using that for sure.
Spending plan. Yeah. So step number one is always to just track your expenses. You want to know exactly how much money do you have coming in. And this is tricky for some people. It's easy if you have a paycheck every week or twice a month, you know what it's going to be and how much tax they're taking out and all of that stuff. But some people get commissions or they get bonuses or like realtors comes to mind. They just get a chunk of cash all at once. And then there's like maybe nothing for weeks or months and then chunk of cash. Because you never know when the escrow is going to close and when that money's going to show up. So it's a little tricky for some people, but as much as you can, you want to track the income as it comes in. If it's regulated, that's a little easier for you, but also your expenses. So when it comes to expenses, there are fixed expenses and flexible expenses. The fixed
Okay.
ones don't change, right? Your mortgage or your rent payment. It's going to be, what you spend every month on your cell phone bill. The things that just don't change. Insurance premiums don't change a whole lot. And so you can count on those. The other ones are flexible. And that might be how much gas you put in your car. It might be, depending on where you live, it might be some utility bills because some people have very flexible utility bills for gas and electric based on the season. The air conditioner's on or the heater's on, things like that. But you have a good idea if you've lived where you're living for a while. So you want to be able to kind of estimate those to your best ability. But the big flexible ones that usually, get people are paying credit card bills because those can, you end up doing a little shopping or an extra little something, something at the holidays. And now you got that bill to pay off. And so that is something within your control that's flexible. Other things are travel, things like food, going out, entertainment, things like that. So you want to have a really good idea of what that might be, but you always want to start with the fixed expenses.
So I think this leads into what you've talked about before. You've talked about buckets. You've talked about different, how we're getting started. Talk about how do we identify our financial goals? Like how do we get that started?
Yeah. Well, for most people, you want to make sure, well, for everybody, we'll start with that one. You want to have like an emergency fund. You want to have a basic, ooh, uh-oh, something happened fund. So you don't end up using credit cards when those things in life surprise you, right? We shouldn't be surprised by financial surprises because we know they're coming. We just don't
Right.
know when or how much it's going to cost us. So you want to have some kind of a strategic cash reserves or emergency fund Once that's in place, and I would estimate 2 or 3 times your basic expenses or your fixed expenses should be in that bucket. Once you have that done, then you want to set goals. And, the goals could be, a vacation I want to take in a year or two. I want to replace a vehicle. I can plan on that happening in a few years or maybe 10 years if you drive them a long time like me. It might be a special occasion coming up. It might be kids starting college. It might be anything. We want to have a little cabin in the woods at retirement time, so we can just get the family around and up in the mountains or whatever it is for you. You want to create these goals with intention. And every goal that you have, big or small, soon or later, should have 4 elements to it. It should have a title, like a real name of the goal. It needs to have a certain date on the calendar by which you'd like to achieve the goal. It needs to have a certain amount of money you need for that goal. So, for example, the cabin in the woods, let's say it's a $400,000 cabin. I want to put $100,000 down, and then I need money to put up curtains and a little security system and, get a garbage disposal that I like and whatever it is. So maybe I need $125,000 for that goal. Now, there will be a mortgage involved in that instance, but $125,000 would be the certain amount I need by that date for that goal. The fourth element of a proper goal is the most important, I think. And that is the outcome. What will you be thinking? What will you be feeling when you achieve that goal? Exactly what will the outcome be? What shows up in your life when that goal is achieved? And when you have those 4 things created and written down in a proper goal, your chance of, your likelihood of achieving that goal is very, very, very high. That's the way to get it done.
Oh, awesome. So I know that a lot of folks, right, tend to live paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes it's just more about, let me get that fancy car and forget everything else. It's all about entertainment. That's most of them blow their money on different things that we don't really think about it when you have a family or you're starting out, right? Because out of high school, a lot of kids all of a sudden start making a ton of money. And it's just like, oh man, I got all this cash and I do this and I'll do that, but never for a rainy day, right? So let me ask you, how would you advise someone to determine their monthly expenses? So how would you get them to start thinking in that right frame of mind? Because I've also heard you talk about it always starts with mindset. So how do we get those youngsters? How do we get those folks into the right frame of mind to determine the monthly expenses?
Well, it's just basically a planning mindset. And this is, whether you're ready to go off to college to play football, you have a goal, you want to get whatever your record is. You want to have so many touchdowns, so many passes, so many yards, whatever it is that you're tracking. You have goals around that. If you're going off to school to achieve a degree, you're getting your undergraduate degree, or you're going back to grad school. There's a goal, right? And so you have all these things you need to do. You have to plan your schedule, you have to plan your finances, and you have to plan everything around the goal that you have. It's the same with financial planning, right? You just have to get your mindset to what's the outcome I want to achieve. And that's these specific goals. We just talked about how to set those. When you get all your goals together into one grid, I call it a financial roadmap. When you get it all together in one grid, then it's easy to allocate the money toward those goals. And it's easy to project exactly what the money needs to do between now and the achievement of the goal for you to be able to achieve it on time. And you just work backwards from that. So that might be a little technical, but that's really how to do it. It starts with, what do I want to have happen in the future? And how do I connect the dots? What do I need to do between now and then to achieve the goal or the set of goals that I have? Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense. And I'm going to ask you a follow-up question with that, with this also, when you discussed buckets before, do you think it's also helpful to categorize these expenses and maybe set a spending limits for each category? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And, it could be very simple, back of an envelope. Here's how much I pay for housing. There's rent, there's gas bill, electric bill, phone bill, cell phone bill, cable, all the subscriptions for my Netflix and all those things, my house living stuff. Then you can categorize, what do I like to do? my going out, my trips, my spending time with my family, my going to the movies. Do people go to the movies anymore? I think, I see all these movie theaters closing. I think it might still be a thing. I don't know. Roller skating, ice skating, whatever it is you do. If you're a golfer, if you like, whatever it is you like to do. I just got back from a trip where we did a lot of diving, spent a lot of time in the water, looking at the beautiful fish and the anemones and the coral. And oh my goodness, that's something we like to do. We like to just explore places you just can't see. On National Geographic, they show this stuff, but it's not the same as seeing it, smelling it, tasting it, when you're in the water. So, but whatever that is, you want to categorize in your budget, your entertainment, your housing, the goals that you have for the future. Most people also have a chunk that they don't plan for, but it's there, and it takes a big chunk out of their monthly spending plan for debt service. Because you have credit cards that need to be paid, you have a car payment that's due, you have student loans that you have to, pay, and for some people that could become a large amount of the income that's coming in goes to debt service. So don't forget that category. That's an important one.
It's also a lot of folks get into this routine, and some of them, I don't know, for lack of better words, I think some become a little bit OCD with their budgets, right? Just like with dieting and so forth, they're just on this tunnel vision sometimes that let's say if I'm living off a $500 budget a month or whatever, and this is I'm following what you said on there. Some people just sometimes panic because they know that they can't make that $500 on this particular category, or spread it out evenly. They do good for maybe the couple of months. So what would you suggest to them? Like, because they do panic a lot.
I think so. And it's easy to do that when you get kind of behind the eight ball. It's like I'm kind of feeling hopeless. How am I ever going to dig out of this hole? You just start digging. It goes back to that mindset. I can do this. I deserve to do this. There might be a temporary time where you need to have a side hustle. You need to have, take on a second part-time job, start a business, doing something on the side, drive for Uber Eats, something where you need to make up the difference in that gap that has shown up as credit debt usually. And sometimes it happens for the best of reasons. You're back in school and maybe you're working part-time, not full-time, and you've taken on debt. Maybe you've had a baby, maybe you've had triplets. That's probably going to surprise your wallet, right? Something like that. So what do you do usually for this, best of reason purpose? Maybe, your car crashed and you have to have a new one, and the insurance didn't quite cover it, or it just got old, right? And it's time for a new one and you didn't, see it coming. And now it's time to spend that money. It goes on credit debt. So that's how it happens for most people. But don't be afraid to see your spending plan as a moving, breathing document. It's going to change. It's going to adjust as your income changes. Your outgo might change. And there's that saying, don't let your upkeep, how does it go? Don't let your outgo exceed your income, or your upkeep will become your downfall. I think that's how it goes. It's true. Yeah. It's true. Don't let your outgo exceed your income. And if it has for a period of time and you find yourself kind of in that tight spot, there are only 3 ways to get out of it. If you have more month than money, there's only 3 ways to fix that. One is earn more, one is spend less, and one is sell something. That's it. Those are your choices. You pick from those. And so for most people, it's like, well, I'm already on a shoestring. I've already turned off my cable bill. I have to eat. I have to put gas in my car to go to work. Where can I cut it? Well, maybe move, right? Move back home. Downsize. If you're in a big old house, maybe downsize for a period of time. There are a lot of ways to get that done. If you're already downsized and you're already, really got a skinny little margin, then you look to, I can't spend less. What can I do to earn more? And that's where you look into all these options. Maybe there's a hobby I have I could turn into a business, right? Maybe there's stuff I have in the garage that's junk to me, but somebody else would pay good value for. Right. Maybe I don't need the car that I'm driving. Maybe I could get a lesser sweet car and make it work. So there's a lot of ways to do that. So, but there are those 3 categories, right? Earn more, spend less, sell something. That'll get you there.
And that's great advice. And folks, thank you for joining us. We're almost getting close to the tail end of our show, but if you didn't catch the beginning of this, we're talking about the B word, budgeting. So you need to watch this at the beginning of the show. And if you're now following Judy, please do so at judykopenbarger.today so you can get the latest and greatest on all the information and wisdom that Judy's been sharing for the last several weeks and months. So let me ask you one more follow-up question. How often should you review and update your budget? Because I think sometimes that's something so simple, sometimes it's overlooked.
Yeah, I would say at least monthly if you're starting. Once you get into the rhythm of things and every month I'm going to put this much in this envelope, for that purpose, or this much in this bucket for that purpose, you'll kind of get into the swing of things. But if you're just starting, I would say every month look at it. You might need to do it every week, especially if maybe you're married or you're making financial decisions with other people, and you disagree on what it looks like to save or to earn or to manage or to spend money. You might want to do it weekly at first. I mean, that can be helpful. And I do this with clients sometimes. It's like, I'm really good at money. I can get a lot. I can save a lot, but I really have a hard time with allocating my spending. Like, I spend too much. I had a client, very, very wealthy client, like way more than most people could ever dream of having, like properties everywhere, business, income, lots of income. And so they live at this very high level. They look good, they smell good, all of that. But her purpose is to be a little bit more intentional about how she spends her money, because she can go buy whatever handbag she wants, she can buy whatever shoes, she can shop, she can buy things for friends and go out and do all that stuff. But she says, I really don't feel good without having intention around my spending. I have the budget, I have the money, but I don't feel like it's good stewardship for me to just spend it as a hobby. I want to be intentional about that. So she put herself on a spending plan. We worked on this late last year before the year end, because she knew Christmas she could really go crazy. And she can afford to do that. And they both agreed, whatever you want to spend, honey, do it. But she didn't feel good about just having the money go out and collecting things. And so we put together a purposeful plan for her to give her some constraints on her spending, so she could just really feel at peace about what was going out and have everything mean more. Instead of, I just brought home a couple of bags, from
Right.
the mall. It meant a lot more to her. And so she's really, this has been about 6 months now. She's really
Oh,
made
wow.
great strides. But, it's not just people that don't have enough, quote, that feel like they need to have a spending plan or a budget or restrict themselves. Sometimes, it gives meaning to life too. So it's a whole spectrum.
And it's funny because I remember this also growing up. That when it's not your see, let me try to rephrase it. So when it's not your money, so you're getting things money from your parents and so forth. It doesn't have the same satisfaction or value because sometimes you just spend to spend, right? Hey, I got $100. Let me go blow it up on this. But when you have to earn it, and then you're like thinking, well, is this really what I want? Is this $100 going to be? Am I going to be happy with what I'm doing, or should I just save it? You know what I mean? So it's also in throughout the months and throughout the years that I've sat here with you and learned some of this. It's just that whole, like we said, it's just the whole mindset just changes, right? It's just not about, I don't know. It's just a different way of thinking nowadays, and hopefully our next generation starts seeing this for what it is, and not just go nuts. Like, I don't want to work, or I don't want to do this. And it's like, I heard someone mentioned to me, a kid said something along the lines of, well, I don't want to ever work and I want to be able to spend. But it's like, okay, so how are you going to spend when you got nothing and you're not working? So it doesn't, you know what I mean? So it's that kind of mentality. I think hopefully that we can start changing some of our youth, especially parents that are watching the show, adults that are watching the show. Some of these folks. I really hope that you guys send them to judycopenbarger.today, or have them tune into the show, because there's a lot of great content that applies to every level, every generation as well too. So with that said, we are at towards the end of the show, and you know what that means, right? It's the money truth moments, the challenge. That's what I'm going to say for sure. What do you got for us?
The challenge. I do have a challenge for you. Here's what I want you guys to think about this week, maybe in this next little season here coming up to Q2. Think about what exactly your spending plan looks like. How can you make it more, better, different, more meaningful for you? If you don't have one, create a spreadsheet. There are so many right on your little cell phone. There are so many great spending plans that they'll probably call it budget, right? Or income allocation or whatever. There's so many apps that you can get that can help you with spending. And if you gamify it, it will make it so much more powerful for you. So first of all, what can I do more, better, different? Write that down, pen and paper, right? It's just so much better when you write it down. Something happens from your brain to your eyes to your hand to the page. I don't know what it is, but it works. So write down what I could do more, better, different with my spending plan. Do I need to spend less? Do I need to earn more? Do I need to talk to somebody? What do I need to do? And then the second thing is, how am I going to get there? What do I have to do to connect the dots? Maybe it's call an accountant, call a financial planner, have a accountability meeting with your spouse. Either write something down on a spreadsheet or on the back of a napkin, and then adhere to it. Or get one of those apps and gamify it. I think that will really help you. So that's your challenge. Do something. Nike, right? Do something. Do it, and that'll get you there. Whether you have 20,000 a month coming in or $20 coming in, work on your spending plan, and that'll really help free you up and help you with your goals for the future. You can do this.
All right, folks, you heard the challenges. Like we said before, if you have any questions or you want to have other topics on the show as well, please reach out and let us know. We're here every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m., replays on Thursdays at 8 p.m. And then remember, follow Judy at judycopenbarger.today. So until next week, Judy, safe travels and look forward to the next show.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.